Greeting fellow modelers. Today, we're going to look at the P-51D-10A Mustang. This is a beauty from World War II, the first aircraft that could leave mainland Britain, go all the way to Berlin and back. It should be a beauty to build. Let's begin. So here we have the P-51D at 100 scale, and we're going to start with doing the prop and the blade. Now, if we get this right, this should set the tone for the rest of the model. So here we're going to focus on doing the prop and the blade. First, we're going to double the thickness of the prop. As a matter of fact, triple the thickness, then paint the backside. Now we're going to put that aside and develop the spinner. Here you see I'm putting in a bit of cut into the spinner tip. Use my ballpoint tool, and this way we create a curve at the nose of the prop spinner. Paint the edges, of course, so that it will retain the realism, and then we cut the base of the cone out. Once we glue and join that together, we will put in a joiner tab here, and then we can put the nose cone tip on. Once we glue that together, we use our cake decorating tool to flatten it, and it should look good. Now what we're going to do after this is to cut the blades out, put into position at the pitch they're supposed to be in, super glue it into place, and then paint the edges. This way it should look good, should look real. We're good with this. Now we're going to go ahead and build the forward fuselage. This area would contain the engine. Now to do this, we're going to build a cockpit, and once we get the cockpit done, put aside, and then we build a forward fuselage. Of course, we're going to cut out everything up to the cockpit section, and we're going to roll it according to what we see in the profile that you will find if you Google it. Lovely. Put in our joiner tab where the cockpit will be, and then we're going to just put glue on the edge of where the cockpit is, and glue one side then the other, so that way we ensure that it's in properly. Then we're going to paint the edge. As usual, we paint the panel edges, put in the joiner tab, and from here now we can cut so it helps facilitate the curve, and then we put in the different panels. Lovely. Now always remember to paint the edge of the panels, because this will help in what it looks like. Once we join and the glue dry, we then use our cake decorating tool to make sure the edges are properly done. Remember that paper is almost like sheet metal that they actually use in World War II. You can curve it to some degree. Here now we're going to put the nose section in after we use our cake decorating tool again, just to form the compound edge. Wait until it's dry after we form it properly, and then we use our tweezer to make sure everything matches on the edge. Again, as usual, we paint the edge. Look at that. We can now apply our spinner that we made before, and you're halfway done with the fuselage. Beautiful. Now let's deal with the rear half of the fuselage. So here now we're cutting out the rear half, and pretty much we're going to do the thing of we paint the edges, we roll according to the shape what it's supposed to be, and then we join it to form that fuselage. It's very important to get into the habit of forming things before we glue. It really helps with keeping the shape and easier to glue actually. Here now, we're good with it. We make sure we flatten the part where the cockpit station is at the top. And now we'll join that part on to the front half. Lovely. Just making sure everything matches. Good. Now we can put in the joiner tabs and join the rest of the fuselage. I'm really feeling good about how it's coming on. See that? The insignia, the bars, are there to help align with the rest of the fuselage. So that's why I don't cut the bars off. Join the rear of the fuselage itself. And we're good. Now let's do the fin. Now just like the model, what we're going to do is to make sure that the fin is not in any way flat. We're going to put some curvature in it. So one side will have the join tabs and the other side will just glue onto it. And all along we maintain that the fin is not flat but carries some form of curvature, some form of space, which will make the time to form. This brings your model to look far more realistic. Look at that, how beautiful it looks. Lovely. And that's it. And remember, after you finish all of this, take the time to paint the edges, like the blue for the fin. Let's do the stabilizer now. And just like the fin, we're going to spend time to do it. But first, we're going to put in toothpick sticks, which I've split small enough. And it serves two functions. One, it keeps the structural integrity of the stabilizer. But two, also make sure that it remains straight and level. That's the beauty of this kit. I really love how the Mustang is coming out. It really looks good, and I really love the fact that it just takes a shape, and at this scale, beautiful. Now we glue it onto the base of the fuselage. We do the other side, and bam, lovely. Again, when you're doing these models, make sure you spend the time looking at the tree view drawing. Here we're doing now the main wing panel. First thing we're cutting out is the structural rib and spar for it. And then we're going to make sure that the panel for the wing leading and trailing edge are folded properly. Bear in mind, this is the underside of the Mustang wing. Putting that curve on the wingtip. So we cut those out and we bend inward. Those will provide the structural surface to maintain that cord to put onto the fuselage. Paint the wingtip, that blue color. And now we're going to join the upper wing fuselage to the lower wing. You notice how I joined the outside first, the outer side of the wing panel. Then I can join the inner side. Then second would be the trailing edge, and we just make sure that the wingtip is left for the time to make sure everything is aligned. Press against a flat surface. Now that we have gotten that, we're going to now put in the spar. We make sure double the spar, and once we do that, we cut them out to the proper width and length, fold, and now you don't glue the entire spar, just the tips you want. It is to keep the width of the spar the way it's supposed to be. Now the wing root fairing, you notice how I'm curling it up slightly, because this now will join to the fuselage. Put small cuts in there because that will help with the curvature or the chord of the wing. That's why we put that there. Now that's there, we now apply a decent amount of glue and then we put in place. Now we're going to glue one side first and then the other once we align it. I use my X-Acto blade to pull the wing root fairing up into the proper dihedral. Then we apply glue to the other side and then repeat the same to the other side. All this time we're making sure that the wing root or the base of it is under the air intake on the fuselage and everything. I'll make sure I hold it to the proper position to get that dihedral. Now let's put in the pilot seat. I really love how this model came together. I'm really happy with it. It really looks good. And I think what brings it alive, and I can't wait to show you later in it, is the canopy. So here we're putting in the armor plate for the seating and we paint the edge. To bring your card model to life, always pay attention to painting the edge. Here I'm applying a little glue. This glue now will go to the base of the cockpit area. There you go. Let's put in the aerial and the exhaust under the fuselage. So here, just doubling the aerial, cut that out and flatten it. You notice how I just glue, fold, and I use my brush handle to roll it flat. We'll put that in place. So once it's in place and it's dry, then we can paint that as necessary. Here now, I'm just putting in the exhaust for I'm not sure. You can let me know in the comment section whether it is for the turbo or just for the intake exhaust. You can let me know what it is for. The flap at the underside of the fuselage, the exit. Nice. Now we make sure that we put it carefully in position, and that's it. Beautiful. And now let's put in the engine exhaust. Now we're going to double a sheet of paper, and then once we double it, we're going to paste the exhaust onto it so that we provide some depth and thickness for the exhaust panel. And then these, we paint the edges, and once we paint the edges, then we can glue into position. Make sure just a small amount of glue, and then we can tack on both sides, and that looks good. Your model is now coming together so well, and you don't even realize how quick it comes together. Now let's do the landing gear strut and fairing. So here for alignment, I cut one side, the other side, and then we just double. You don't have to do this. I guess you could cut along the center line and it will automatically double. It's just habit. Let's do the wheel. The wheel is typical standard fashion, but for this I went a little overboard. Here you see I'm putting a little curve in the center that I'm now gluing as a circle. So to add a little curve to the wheel, and then after this, I will now put the sides on it. But this way, it lets the wheel look not flat, but that it carries a little roundness to it for a paper model. And here to exasperate it, or exaggerate it I say, you see I put a little curve or bend the tip of the wheel sides. So that way now, again, after you finish painting this, it should look really good. Look at that. And then we just paint the wheel edge. Nice. Now, I'm just rolling for the landing gear strut. The solder wire, I think this is about 0.8 millimeter. And that's what I'm rolling to make structural and tight. And bend accordingly. And this is now what I'll glue the wheel we just made onto. We just have to measure using the actual wheel that we did. A little glue. I have to remember the model is small enough and light enough that the Aleene's tacky glue will hold it firm and nice. And then we put the glue in position. We glue the landing gear in position. And remember, the landing gear strut come in two pieces, the outer part, and here now the inner part I am putting in. And that's it. And it looks really nice. I mean, I love how this model coming together. Now here is the part that we're waiting for, the canopy, which is what we're going to do now. So, first thing I'm going to do is cut the canopy to make the mold for it. I cut this out and then I'm going to glue it into the proper shape or form of what it is supposed to be. Here you see I'm putting in tabs to make sure it's not overlapped but flattened. Because now after I do this and it works, I'm going to sand it. But here you see I'm showing you the details of just really putting this together. So this is a part that's the main canopy that the pallet would slide forward and back. But once I put this, I'm not going to stop here. I'm going to now join the canopy front, the windshield, to the main canopy. And this is important because we want one piece. Here I'm putting in the joiner tab and I'm putting in cuts because now we are going to join the canopy windshield to the front. And once we do this, we make sure that it remains there. I put super glue in to stiffen everything and make sure it stays as one. Now I'm going to glue a base in there after, but here you see I'm using a fine sander to just sand the top to make it clean. Now I'm putting in a base, just a rough base. It's not 100% accurate. And now this here is a wrap that I got from a pharmaceutical bag. You can use any thin shrimp wrap. You find it on most pharmaceutical items or items at the grocery store. Now here I'm putting the canopy mold on my X-Acto knife and then I get a low heat gun. Now I wrap the sheet I got over the canopy mold. The heat gun is set to really low because this sheet can shrink very quickly and require little to no heat. And then I just blow on it and it just shrinks around it. This is from a waste wrapping that you find on any pharmaceutical box or perfume box. Here you see I'm cutting it aside. Now I'm leaving it on it, and then the frame of the canopy, I am now painting the underside. I check with the underside now and again and paint it. After I do this, I'm then going to use satin varnish. I'm painting it because it serves two functions. One, it holds the paint so the paint don't run, and two, it thickens the cardstock so that when I cut it out, it won't be flimsy. I then glue it into position on top of the canopy, and then I can cut the canopy out. And that's how I form the canopy. Going forward, I think this is what I want to do with all the models to make it a little more realistic. You can let me know in the comment what you think about the result, because I feel like it looks really good. And that's my P-51. So here we have it, a card model, a paper model that looks really good. Wow, thank you so much for joining me, and especially the time you spent being with me. I want to thank first and foremost all my Patreon sponsors who make this possible. They're the ones who from the beginning believe in making it happen. If you want to join, please feel free to join. It's in the description. Thank you so much for being part of this wonderful journey with me. There are so much more models to come of different scale, different types. Until then, my friends, one love.